Hello, I'm Cher Kretz. I'm a school counselor, I'm a family coach, and I'm the host of Parenting with the Focused Mindset podcast. And I'm going to talk to you today about helping kids calm fears and face their challenges. So many children are facing fears that come from worry, that come from sadness, that comes from grief. And we're going to take a few minutes to talk about how we can use a solution-focused approach to be able to help children have a healthy mindset so they can move through their challenge and get to the other side. Well, before we do, let's talk about the top 10 fears. The top 10 fears, as in the most recent studies, are change, loneliness, uncertainty, failure, rejection, getting hurt, being judged, inadequacy, something bad happening, and the loss of freedom. When you think about each of these fears, you know what didn't hit the list? Fear of spiders, fear of public speaking, fear of heights, okay? Those things are fears, but the deep fears are all rooted in these 10 things. I can say that in some ways, the fear of speaking in front of people is kind of the fear of being judged. And you can make kind of an argument that they're all intertwined. But the truth is that fear is usually attached to some type of emotional change, some type of emotional stress, some type of pain. And then there's grief. Grief is the loss of anything that truly matters, according to Dr. Bruce Perry. And that is from the book, the most recent book that he's published with Oprah Winfrey, What Happened to You? A great read. It helps people understand grief. I highly recommend it. But I want us to examine how many people in our life are dealing with fears in today's world. You're dealing with fears. Your children are dealing with fears. And how are we going to help them with that? Because we know that fear needs to be processed within us. Fear needs to be dealt with. And many times we just want to push it away because it's just too hard. It hurts too much. Well, let's think about this quote that pain that is not transformed gets transmitted. Pain that's not transformed gets transmitted. And in solution-focused work, that's what we do, is help transform people. We cause a transformation within a person to be able to look at something in an entirely different way. It's not that they just have a goal and they went for that goal, but they feel transformed because they can look at it in a way that is clear, in a way that is true to them. When you think of what is a transformation, what is being transformed, it's to make a thorough and dramatic change. When I heard this statement, I immediately thought, with my background of faith, I thought of the verse, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And immediately that just hit me, because that is what I want to do as a school counselor, as a coach. That's what I want to do for myself, for my family. I want us to be able to be transformed by the renewing of our mind each and every day when we wake up, each and every moment that we learn. We want to renew our mind. That's even that much more important when we're going through change, when we're going through painful change, especially. Solution-focused strategies help people transform their thoughts so they can better deal with the pain today and with the unknowns of tomorrow. I mean, I honestly believe that how we process pain directly affects how we deal with painful situations in our life, because our mind has memory. When you think of confirmation bias and all the things we know about how the brain only picks out the things that are important to remember, well, when they're in the middle of a harmful situation, it might be a lot, but the brain is taking things in and saying, how am I going to process this? And it might be 1, 2, 3 years later when they finally decide to. How we deal with pain. Do we deal with it in a transformative way, or we deal with it in a way that is harmful? I want you to just for a minute notice the difference between these two ways of processing pain. In this case, we're going to talk about death. Picture somebody having their father die when they're young, and years later, they have this process, this thought process going on. My father died. I feel sad all the time. It's not fair that he isn't here. Life isn't fair. Life isn't worth living. I just am going to cover up my pain with. It's painful to even listen to that. But we know so many people that is exactly what happened when that painful, harmful situation happened in their life. Now, notice the difference. Same person, when they transformed their pain, when they dealt with it and they're processing it. What about this scenario? My father died. I feel very sad. It's okay to feel sad because it tells me how much I love him. And I'll always remember how we listened to music together and I can listen to his favorite song and smile. Somebody who's able to walk through that process, what difference does that make? Consider what difference that makes. It's been said that that's the difference between post-traumatic stress and post-traumatic wisdom. There's a big difference between the two. Honestly, if you're a person that works with kids day in and day out, you might be the first person they come to when they confide in that they're going through pain. And how you talk to them and how you help them could make all the difference in the world with whether they process it with a transformative nature or whether they oppress it and whether it gets transmitted later. What do I mean by it getting transmitted later? Well, we all know people who are transmitting pain. It might come out through depression. It might come out through the way that they treat others, anger. It might come out in bursts of anger towards strangers or towards their family members, their kids. It gets transmitted, meaning they haven't dealt with it, so they push it out, or they transmit it within in a harmful way. Transformed means they're renewed. Big difference. So today, I'm going to talk to you guys about how this could work. How should this work when we're dealing with really hard and painful situations? Well, first of all, when you're sitting in front of someone that's gone through a lot of pain, you need to believe in their ability to get to the other side. 100% believe in it. You have to sit there in front of them, even if they don't believe in it for themselves. And you say, I know that they have it within them. They have that to walk through to the other side. And what am I going to do? I'm going to gently lead them forward on the path to get there. As a solution-focused brief therapist practitioner, as a counselor, as a school counselor, anyone that works with the solution-focused approach in this type of way needs to look at that person and believe it 100%. Because part of our job is to believe in them and then to gently lead them towards a path to get there. And Eric Wagner from the UK teaches us about the 3 C's in the solution-focused practice. And this fits so well here that I'm going to put it right here. Connection, clarity, and commitment. I'm going to look at it in a little bit different way than he does because we're looking at it in the light of dealing with pain and dealing with hard times. You see, the first step that we need to do is just completely 100% validate where they're at. This has been tough for you. Wow, this has been a real loss. Statements like that are so important for people to hear. I know that sometimes you might feel a complete loss of words if you hear something very heavy that someone's going through. You can always validate that this is how they feel and it's real. This is a real challenge. Use their words echoed back to them. Now, that is a really great way of helping them. But if you're a counselor, you also want to kind of fine tune the words that you say back because their words could be very dark and that is where they're at. But you can change just a little bit and it will help that transformative nature of what they think about and what they believe about this trauma as they walk forward. They might say to you, This is the worst. I can't go on. And you might say, this feels like the absolute worst. It feels like you can't even go on. The second one is clarity. When you think about clarity, you should think of making things very clear, like you're lighting a path towards healing and hope. I like to look at it like it's a big fog, that the person I'm sitting in front of is in a fog. They're in a daze. They don't know what to do. And I'm just going to light a flashlight, just light a way, light a path towards healing and hope. I can ask questions like, what's one thing that's got you this far? With you sitting right here in front of me and talking about this, wow, what has been helping you? How have you done this? Now, I'm going to give you some examples in just a minute of dealing with fear and also worry. But if someone's going through fear, you might say, let's take a minute to breathe and feel what we feel like when we're not in so much fear. Let's take a break from that for a minute. What does your body feel like? And if you're dealing with someone that's dealing with the loss of something huge in their life, what's a memory that you think about often that you remember? Maybe they're ready to share that with you. There's these different ways that you can help people with their clarity, with a light that they can get through to the other side. They need to, the words will come to you. In the moment, if you're just thinking, I want to light a path, then the moment will, if you sit in that moment and think of it like that, rather than, oh, I feel so sorry for the pain they're going through, then words are going to come to you that will help them feel that warmth of a light that's coming through the darkness. And the third step is commitment. All right. Creating a helpful narrative that helps them move forward. This has been so helpful for the people that I've worked with. And you can imagine that because of the last year, 2 years really, there's a lot of students that just feel stuck in how they're thinking. They're in a loop of negativity, and giving them a narrative really will help them move forward. Giving them some words they can say to themselves and words they can say to others that helps them be able to express what's going on within them and helps them be able to feel like they have a brighter future. I mean, one good way, and I'm going to talk about these later, is just to be able to write down, just help them make a list. Make a list of all of the things that are making your heart happier, that's helping you get through these challenging times. And I also have, sometimes I just tell the kids, I have a really helpful sentence. This works really well with kids. It actually works well with teens and adults too, because sometimes we just don't know what to say to ourselves, like I just said. And I'll say something like, here's a helpful sentence. I feel blank when blank, and my best hope is. Now, this is a sentence that lots of counselors use in conflict resolution to be able to help people say things in a calm way so they're not yelling and they're not blaming. But guess what? The sentence works great in these situations too. People can stop and fill in those blanks, and then they can repeat back the sentence. I feel sad when I think about the fact that we had to move. And my best hope is that I'm going to be able to make some good friends like I had before, for example. So let's go on. I have some kids that I want to tell you about, because the solution-focused approach helped these kids deal with their pain. First, Jordan, he's a 4th grader, and he was trapped by some big, big fear. You see, he honestly believed that something awful was going to happen, especially that he would to his parents or to himself. He felt like they were going to be separated some way. He felt like they were going to die. Either something bad or they were going to die, and this was looping through his head. Why? His mom said one day he woke up from a nightmare, and in that nightmare, his parents died, and he was so panicked, and he was so upset. And even though his mom comforted him and tried to help him and told him, it's going to be all right, and we're right here, all he could think about was something bad's going to happen. And it got so bad that the only place that he would really go to is school. Besides that, he didn't want to go to the grocery store, to the park. He didn't want to go any place because he was so concerned that something bad might happen. And that's when he came to me in that state. And I called him to talk to him, and I sat in front of him, and I'll tell you, he was just, he was so uptight. His hands were, even just at the thought, I said, yeah, I'm here to talk to you a little bit. I hear that you've been having some fear and worry. I didn't have to go any further. His hands were wringing. He was rocking. He said, oh, I know something bad's going to happen. I just know it. I just know it. And I can just feel it in his voice. And my heart went out to him. And as I watched him toil and stress,
because sometimes
I
we
realized,
just need to interrupt
I realized in that moment that
interrupt
he
the
needed
fear
to feel
itself.
what it felt
You know
like
what
once
I
again
didn't deal
to feel
with this
comfortable,
child?
calm,
I didn't talk
peaceful.
about the fear
And
that he was
anytime the
having.
fear popped up, it was
But I
impossible for
did
him to do
talk
so.
about what he
So
could do
I told him, I said,
to
let's consider for a
what his
minute, what does
body
it
would
feel like when you're
if
not
it
having
wasn't in
fear?
fear.
Think about the
So we put
last
a
time
heart
that you
on a
weren't
paper,
fearful.
And I
And he
just said,
thought
you know,
about that time
imagine
when he was
when
in
you're
his
not
room
feeling
playing with his
fearful.
toys.
Imagine
And
a
I said, all
time
right,
when
let's
this fear
think
was
about how
completely
your body
gone.
felt during that time. What were you
How
thinking
do you
about?
feel?
What were you
And we
looking
wrote
at?
some
What were
things
you
down.
doing? What are the
And I
other
asked,
thoughts
how
that
does
you were
that
thinking
look?
at that
How does your body
time?
look?
And I saw his
What are
body
you
start to
doing?
relax and calm down. His
What
breathing
else are you
slowed. His heart
thinking?
rate
What other
slowed.
types of
His
thoughts are you
hands
having when you're
unfolded.
not having thoughts of fear?
And I said, do you notice the
And
difference? I
as we
notice a
wrote
big
these things
difference.
down, I
Look at
watched
right now. Look,
his
your hands are
body
calm.
begin
And
to
I noticed all of
relax.
that. And so
What
I
had
told him to put his hand on
originally
his
been
heart
his
and feel
palms
himself
fisted
breathing.
and
And I asked him,
his
how does your
body
body
just kind of
feel in this
tightened up and
fearless place of
his
peace?
eyebrows furrowed,
And we started
and
talking about
pretty
it. And he
soon
came up with
his
3 things. He
face
said he felt
softened.
safe,
His shoulders
he
began
felt
to relax.
loved,
His
and he felt
hands
cared for.
relaxed. His body relaxed.
Well, you see, in that
And
moment when we were
as he
talking, his
began to
parents
get
were
in
nowhere to be
touch
seen.
with what
It
he
could have been a very
really
anxious
feels most
moment, but he
comfortable
was able
being,
to
that calm
self-regulate
person
himself.
that's letting
He was
go,
able to
letting
take
go of
himself
fear.
into a completely
His
different
body
moment.
took
So we got out a
notice
piece of
and
paper and we put a
began to
heart on the
relax.
paper. And I
And
put
then I
"you are"
stopped
in the
and
corner,
said,
and we wrote
wow, I
down
noticed something
safe,
about you right now.
loved,
Look, your
cared
hands
for.
are relaxed. Look,
And then
your
I had him
body is
repeat that.
relaxed.
You
How
are
do you
safe.
feel right now?
You are loved.
And
You
we
are
put our
cared
hand on our
for.
heart. How does your heart feel
You're
right
taken
now?
care of. And it
he
gave
realized
him
himself, and there was a little
it
grin
gave
in
him
his
a
face.
mantra.
Wow, I
It gave
don't feel
him
the fear
words.
right
It gave
now.
him actually something
see,
to tell
we
his
can
brain when his brain
interrupt
wanted to
that
tell him,
fear.
you're not safe.
But
Something bad is going to
the
happen. He needed
mistake we
something
make of
different to
saying, I'm going
say,
to deal
and
with,
this was
because
what he chose.
sometimes
He
we just
chose
need
it
to
because he
interrupt
told
that
me
fear.
that's the way
We need
he
to
feels when
interrupt
he's
the
in a
fear
fearless
itself.
place of
You know
peace.
what I didn't deal with
Well,
with
his
this
mom
child?
came to me the
I
very
didn't
next
talk
day,
about
and
the fear
she
that he
was
was having.
so excited.
But
She
I
goes,
did
whatever you
talk
told
about
him, we
what
went
he
to the
could
grocery
do
store. He got out
to
of the car.
consider what
I
his
saw him
body
take
would
just a
feel
moment
like
to
if it
himself. He put
wasn't
his
in
hand on
fear.
his heart, and off
So
we
we put a
went. And we
heart on
we
a
were in the
paper,
store the whole time. He
and I
didn't
just
fuss
said, you
or
know,
worry at
imagine
one
when you're
time.
not feeling fearful.
And he just
Imagine
told
a
his mom
time when
later
this
that
fear was
night, I'm going to
completely gone.
interrupt my fear.
How do you feel?
Now, that's exactly what I
And
had
we
told
wrote
him when
some
we were
things
sitting
down.
in that room. I said, I think your fear
Then I
needs to be
asked, how does
interrupted.
that look? How
And
does your
he
body
remembered
look?
that phrase. I'm going to
What are you
interrupt
doing?
my fear.
What
Since
else
I've
are you
used that in
thinking?
so
What
many
other types of
situations,
thoughts
because
are
you know
you
you
having
can
when you're
interrupt
not
fear.
having thoughts of
It's kind
fear?
of like if someone was
And
talking
as we
about your
wrote these
child and all of a
things
sudden they're
down, I
talking bad about
watched
them, you would say, oh,
his
hold on just
body
a minute right
begin to
there. I'm going to
relax.
interrupt you right there.
What
That's what
had
you need to do
originally
to
been
this
his
fearful
palms
talk that gets up in
fisted
our
and
brain telling us things that aren't
his
true and likely aren't
body
going to
just kind of
happen.
tightened
You
up
need to
and
do that to yourself.
his eyebrows
I know
furrowed,
I need to
and
interrupt my
pretty
fear when
soon
I get
his face softened.
fearful of
His shoulders
rejection or
began to
worry or
relax.
all the
His
things that pop
hands
in your mind.
relaxed.
No,
His
I'm going to
body
interrupt you
relaxed.
right there.
And as he
And I'm
began
going
to
to
get in
think about a
touch
time when I
with what
didn't
he
feel fearful.
really
I'm going
feels
to
most
attach
comfortable
myself to
being,
that
calm
helpful
person that's
emotion.
letting
And that's what we
go of
did with
fear,
Jordan right then and there.
his body
So
took
helpful.
notice and
Now, I
began
talk
to
about this
relax.
back in episode
And then I
60.
stopped
So if you
and
would
said,
like to go back and listen
wow,
to that
I
on my
noticed something
podcast,
about
Parenting
you
with the
right
Focused
now.
Mindset, feel
Look,
free to
your
do that.
hands are relaxed.
And I kind of go
Look,
into this whole
your
story in a
body
lot
is
more
relaxed. How do
detail
you feel
and
right
how
now?
it really helped. And
And we put our hand
it's
on our
just,
heart.
it's
How does
all
your
about
heart
breaking
feel
away
right
from
now?
fear in this matter and this harmful
And
situation,
he
because it will
realized
be harmful if
himself,
they
and there
keep
was a little
thinking in
grin
this
in his
type of way.
face. Wow, I don't feel the fear
But
right
Jordan
now.
broke away from it. And I can tell
You
you
see,
that
we
even a a year
can
later,
interrupt
he's
that fear.
successful.
But the
Now,
mistake we make.
I have another child, that I've been working with. And this one's a really fresh one. I actually had a completely different person I was going to tell you about because I wanted to talk about grief and loss because that's a biggie. As far as dealing with tough situations, I'm finding that a lot. To be honest, I have, I want to say maybe 25 emails in my email right now that want to join my mini grief group to get through the pain and suffering from someone close to them passing away. And we're going to start that in the next couple of months. And it's going to be helpful, very helpful. These small groups end up bringing so much healing to the kids. But Cassandra, third grade, she came to me this last week. And she actually was referred to me by another teacher because she had drawn a picture of a Halloween story that had a knife in it, and it wasn't allowed. You weren't supposed to use weapons, but this was a whole big old elaborate story about a father dying by getting killed and this whole thing. And the irony is her father died a couple of years back, but he died of cancer, not of this. He died of complications. But this whole story, the only thing that was similar to the irony was that it was about a father dying. But when she heard that she had to rewrite the story, she just got angry. And this is a girl that I guess is normally very quiet, very stoic, doesn't talk very often. And she got mad and she threw her pencil and she's all, "This is the story that I want to write." And when the teacher dug a little deeper, she said, "You know what? The little girl in this story lost a dad just like me, and that's why I want to write this story." And the teacher said, "Oh, wow. Have you must really miss your dad. Have you talked to your mom about it?" She goes, No, I can't talk to my mom about it. She would hurt too much. It would make her sad. I can't talk about my feelings at all about this." Well, right away, that teacher knew that it would be good to see me as the school counselor. She asked me to see her that very day, and that's exactly what I did. And when I called her over to talk to her, Cassandra was saying, just talking about her story, and said, "I know that's not the way my dad died." She said, "My dad died after being in the hospital. And my dad had a whole bunch of problems in the hospital." And I said, "Wow. Well, can you tell me more about that?" Knowing that it had been a couple years since he died, I said, "Can you tell me something you remember about that?" And she said, "That's just it. I don't remember anything. I hardly have any memories. I don't even know what to answer because I don't know." And she was just started to feel really sad. And I said, now, if you were to talk to your mom, what do you think you would say?" And she goes, "I don't think I could do that." And I said, "Well, let's see. What would you say? Let's try it out. I have a very powerful sentence to help you out. And let's just fill in the blanks and see if it works. I feel," and she thought about it and she said, "I feel sad when I think about my dad. And I wish I could get my memories." She said, "I remember that when I wake up at night, sometimes I've had a dream of the time he would wake me up and take me to get hot chocolate early in the morning. And I remember that one dream, but then I wake up. And I want to go back to that. What I wish is that I could go back to where we used to have hot chocolate together." And I said, "Well, because," and she says, "because then I would be able to have that memory, and maybe I'd even have more memories." And I said, "That would be amazing, Cassandra. I wonder if you could share this sentence with your mom." And she said, "I can, I think." And she got out a piece of paper. She started writing this sentence down so she could remember it. And as she was writing, she goes, "I remember sometimes we used to go get food too." And then a couple seconds later, she said, "Sometimes he would give me a horsey ride. I remember he would put me on his back and he would ride me around like he was a horse." And I said, "Oh, those are 3 memories you just shared." And she said, "I guess I do have more memories." And I said, "Your mom probably knows exactly where that place is because they hadn't moved." I said, "I bet you guys could go back to that hot chocolate place. And I am so glad that you shared your very precious memories with me today." And as we went on with our talk that day, I knew that her heart was healing, that she was processing what she was going through. And I felt so thankful that I could be the one to help her process that in a healthy way. For 2 years, she hadn't known. And all of a sudden, her body's starting to thinking about it. Her body's wanting to talk about it, which we do, right? It's time for her to be able to think about how to heal from this. And how can she when she feels like she can't talk to her mom about it? Maybe the culture in their home is that they don't talk very much about it. And just by a conversation, I bet you that can change. And I'd like to give you an update about it. But like I said, this is a very fresh example. So I'll have to maybe in a future podcast episode have a update or something like that. It just shows that we can and should give people words to use when they're stuck. The other sentence goes in line with another real situation that I've had. These are some scripts, if you will, to help people communicate even to their own self. They need to be able to say different things to themselves about their pain, about their suffering, about their struggle. It's okay to feel anger right now because it tells me how much this situation means to me. The one thing I remember is that I'm going to be okay. And it's not the other people's fault that this happened. So I am going to practice breathing and calming down today to help me. There's an example. You can fill in the blanks in almost anything because everyone's different in how they're dealing with very tough and hard situations. Really, we just need to believe that if someone comes into our life, whether you're a professional counselor, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a parent, whether you're a friend, and they need to talk about pain, you can be the one to be there for them. And even so, I'm kind of feeling inclined to say that we kind of need to be there for ourselves as well. We need to believe in ourselves when we're going through hard times. We're not immune. We can always think of these other people that are in pain, but our own pain matters too. And we need to tell ourselves, it's okay that I feel sad right now, worry, a little bit of pain, a little bit of struggle, a little bit of anxiousness, because it tells me something. Even feelings like, jealousy, they tell us something. It's okay to feel jealousy right now because it tells me that that person might have something, like I need to move in that direction. Jealousy is something that I never, ever want to feel for anyone. I'm actually not a super duper competitive person, but when I do perk up and go, oh, wow, they have that, I kind of notice that feeling because rather than saying, they have that, I like to think, wait a minute, maybe that's because I need to also move in that direction. Maybe I need to switch my mindset and collaborate with those people rather than let that jealousy fester for no apparent reason. Anyway, that's a different story, right? Get back to the subject. Whatever we are going through, we can validate it. We can understand why. We can remember something that will be helpful and move forward in that. All right, so I have some resources, and you probably, if you're watching on my YouTube website, wherever you're watching this presentation, you see that I have a little QR code in the corner. And that QR code is actually really special because it gives you access to the same type of stuff that the people had that went to the conference. And one of them is these resources, all right? They are really helpful. They're the 3 resources that are going to help that we are talking about here, the exact things that we're talking about, something that talk about the heart project that we did, how to deal with kids that are healing from pain and suffering as far as grief. And if you're listening on the podcast, because I think I'm going to use this recording for that as well, I'm going to leave a link in the show note where you can get this resource. It's the exact resources that can help people get through pain and suffering that I've developed. So now it's time for you guys to not forget about this message. Now, I talked about how the mind processes things and only remembers what's important. Now, the truth is we're 43% more likely to remember what we write down, and that jumps up when we review what we wrote down. So hopefully you wrote some notes, and even if you haven't, it's a good thing to write down what you've learned. You can email me at sharethefocusedmindset.com, and on my website, share thefocusedmindset.com, you are going to be able to get a hold of me, because you can go to the contact page, type it out, whatever you need to do, and tell me about a time when you've helped someone through a hard time. Tell me about the challenge you're going through. Tell me about what you've learned in this very webinar time, because that will help you remember. If you want to walk forward remembering, moving into our very next, whatever you're going to do, you need to pause and give yourself some time to really process it and say, this is important to me. What was helpful to you? It's time to interrupt your process of forgetting. You can use it with the code if you're watching, or like I said, you can go to www.thefocusedmindset.com and go to the connect page. So those of you that work with the solution-focused practice, you are never alone. I am right there with you. I invite you to be a part of the Focused Mindset community. We're a community of parents and educators that work together to be able to be our best self every day and to help those around us do the same. We learn solution-focused mindset principles that help us be able to navigate all of the challenges that we face. I am so glad that you were able to join me today. And until next time, keep in touch and take care.